time has finally come. I've been putting off this video for quite a few months, but now I'm ready to announce my top 10 favorite films of 2016. Before I begin, I've got something important to bring up. Now, throughout 2016, I gave quite a few films the rating of 10 out of 10, and let me make it clear, I stand by the ratings I gave, because the ratings I gave those films were based on my first viewing of the film, and I still think they're good films, but after a couple of rewatchings and, second and third viewings, my opinion on the films I gave 10 out of 10 to have changed. Like, I still think they're good films, but I've decided not to include them on this list. Like, again, I'll make it clear, I stand by the ratings I gave those films, because those ratings were based on my first viewing of the film, and nothing will change that. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into it. Number 10, Manchester by the Sea. I was originally never going to see this film because it really didn't interest me, because all it was a guy whose brother dies and he goes up to Manchester to look after his nephew. Like, that story is just too simple, and I didn't think it was going to be anything spectacular. And then I went to go see it, and wow, did it take me by surprise. Like I said, it could have been a simple story, but the way Kenneth Lonergan directed this film and told this story, and just probably the most human performance of the year by Casey Affleck, all those elements made it my favorite film of the year. These two took a simple story and made it something special and unique. And this is probably Casey Affleck's best performance of his career. I've never seen him give a performance this good. Not only is it the most human performance he's ever given, but it's also the most quiet performance he's ever given, the most subtle, and the most heartbreaking performance he's ever given. Number 9, Goldstone. For those who have no idea what this film is, this is an Australian film that I think only came out here. I don't know any other countries that got this film. This was one of the surprises of the year. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the supporting characters are shit, and they act like complete weirdos, but that's not why I like the film. The reason I like the film is the technical stuff. Basically, if you're a technical guy, if you like good camera angles, you like lighting, you like colors, you like camera shots, this is the film for you, because this film is a technical masterpiece. Everything I just said, it did extremely well. This film does camera shots you would never believe. The performances from the main actors are good, the editing is phenomenal, the directing is really good here, and even the story is phenomenal as well. While my gripe against the supporting actors is there, this is a film that, if you can find it, I would highly recommend watching it. It is a technical masterpiece. Number 8, The Beatles, 8 Days a Week, The Touring Years. Yes, this is a documentary, and yes, it's about the Beatles, and I'm pretty sure there's been, hundreds of documentaries on the Beatles, but there's never been one like this before. And this is perhaps the best documentary on the Beatles, because not only is this documentary directed by Ron Howard, that sold the film for me right there, but this documentary goes into a more greater depth than any other documentary on the Beatles has, because this documentary goes into the tours the Beatles took part of, the toll that it took on them, and the relationship between all four of them, how they originally came together, how they all had a passion for music. Also add in footage that has never been seen before, and include all interviews from all 4 Beatles, including John Lennon and George Harrison. Then you've got a documentary I think is the best documentary of 2016. So if you never saw this documentary, or you're a fan of the Beatles, I would highly recommend seeing this one. Number 7, Arrival. I'm still pissed that Amy Adams never got a Best Actress nomination at the Oscars, because in my opinion, she is the core factor that makes this film work. Without Amy Adams, this film would have failed. That's how good this film was. And everything else about this film is phenomenal as well. The visual effects are amazing, the cinematography is really good, the music is great, the directing is really good as well. Like I stated in my review of this film, this is the most important film to come out in quite some time, and is a phenomenal film that should not be missed by any science fiction fan. Number 6, Eye in the Sky. From what I've gathered, not a lot of people saw or talked about this film. This is perhaps the most underrated film of the year, and it really shouldn't be, because this film stars Helen Mirren, Aaron Paul, and Alan Rickman in one of his final film performances. Like Arrival, this film I think is also important, because this film shows how in modern warfare, there's a possibility in the future that we will rely on drones to do the war for us. This film showed us a scary truth that could possibly happen in the future. How we don't even have to be on the battlefield to cause damage. We can just sit in our comfy chairs and just let the chaos go on. And this film does a really good job of that in the characters' expressions. Mix in a film with really good thriller elements, and you've got a film that I think is one of the best of the year. Number 5, Hunt for the To explain the popularity of this film played in the cinema I go to from May till September for 5 months. That's how huge this film was. And when I first saw this film, I would have said my #1 favorite film of the year because this film was funny, had a good story, had good drama mixed in as well, good characters. This is a film that is perfect for the whole family. Number 4. Sing Street. Take a simple story about a guy who falls in love with a girl, starts a music band, and you have a film that took me by absolute complete surprise. Mix in good characters, really good musical numbers, and you have a film that from start to finish leaves you satisfied. This was one of the most feel-good movies of the year. I would highly recommend people see this film because if you're a fan of either coming-of-age films, musical films, or drama films, this is the film for you. Because even if you like one of those elements, you will enjoy the other two because this film does a perfect job of blending all those elements together and creating something that is just unique. And this film was from John Carney, who did the really brilliant Once. So if you're a fan of his work, you'll really like this film as well. Number 3. Hacksaw Ridge. This was a haunting film to watch. Not only do you have a performance by Andrew Garfield, whose performance I think should win for Best Actor at the Oscars, but you have a film that is a return for Mel Gibson. He hasn't directed a film in 10 years, and his career's been pretty much tarnished because of some past issues. But this film was his triumphant comeback, and being completely honest, this is the best film of Mel Gibson's career, and I personally think this film is better than Braveheart. Because you have a story about a guy who went to war, never fired a gun, and yet saved 75 lives on the battlefield. This was a heart-wrenching film to watch. Also add in some of the most haunting battle scenes since Saving Private Ryan, and you have a film that will go down as one of the greats. Number 2, La La Land. I know you were probably expecting this to be number 1, but there was a film that I saw recently that completely topped this film, so I will get into that shortly. But let's get into my number 2 pick. My opinion on people thinking this is an overrated film, I disagree. I think this film, given a few years, will be regarded as a classic. I think the reason people are calling this film overrated is because of all the buzz it's getting and 14 nominations. And being honest, I think the film deserves those 14 nominations. Not only do you have one of the best performances of the year by Emma Stone, but you have a film that has really good musical numbers, has great cinematography, great use of colors, very good storytelling. This is a film I adored from start to finish. The first musical number completely sold the idea that this is a musical, get ready to see something special, and from then on, it was a magical experience, and that's one word to describe this film, magical. And now the time has come for my number 1 pick. I only saw this film a few days ago, but this film had me in shock, awe, and it was phenomenal. And my number 1 favorite film of 2016 is Silence. This is once again another great masterpiece from Martin Scorsese. It pisses me off that this film only got 1 Oscar nomination. 1. And it was for Best Cinematography. And the cinematography was great, but there was no Best Director, no Best Actor, no Best Picture. What the hell? This was a phenomenal film. One of the best of the year. And while it's a slow film, for me, I was in the right mood set for a slow film, and I was never bored once. And it had a performance by Andrew Garfield that I think is better than his performance in Hacksaw Ridge. Every performance by every actor in this film is subtle, and even with the subtle acting, it made the performances even more powerful. And being honest, this is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films of all time. And I think with time, this film will be regarded as a classic. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5. Thank you so much for watching.